How do I do it? Well, luck does play a big part, but skill gets the round close enough for luck to be a factor. If you still think I use an aimbot, think about this. Most aimbots are direct line of sight, relying upon proximity, high bullet velocity, and a fast rate of fire. Once you get an aimbotter at distance, he has lost his advantage. Sarsis demonstrates this very well in his sniper versus aimbotter video. Even an aimbot that calculates lead would not be effective in a tank with such a slow round. Too many variables are involved, and if it were possible, it would be very easy to spot on video. The human mind, however, doesn't have to calculate lead. It is capable of learning and adapting faster than any computer on Earth. There is no hack that can outperform the true supercomputer we are given. Take, for example, the simple act of throwing a baseball. Consider all the different muscle groups your mind is controlling simultaneously without the need of cognitive thought. In fact, it is our cognitive thinking which often interferes with our motor skills that results in error. This is the core concept behind the way I have trained myself to shoot down aircraft with a tank, by tapping into the mind's ability to recognize patterns, adapt, and react with precision at lightning speeds. The brain's ability to track a target and project accurate lead points is nothing short of amazing. But our reflex motor skills needed to respond with precision is something that must be developed. In this tutorial, I will explain and demonstrate the training exercises I use to develop these motor skills. Here is the key. By keeping our focus on target and closing the time gap between lead point selection and firing, we allow that part of our brain which is most capable to take control. You may have already noticed that I frequently engage targets on the move with a gun barrel that is in motion. Believe it or not, learning to do this is not as difficult as you might think. In most battlefield situations, you simply don't have the time to stop your tank for a stable and well-aimed shot. So let's get started, shall we? As long as you don't ever have to look at your keyboard in the heat of battle, very few changes, if any, are needed in control settings. For those who are curious, note that I have shifted all of my movement keys to the right by one row. My middle finger controls forward movement using E instead of W. This frees up the left pinky and the index finger to control more keys without taking my eyes off the screen. It is very important to find a perfect balance between turret speed and fine control. You want to be able to swing around as fast as possible without losing too much fine-tuning ability when making stationary precision shots. I like sensitivity at 3 with yaw and pitch factors of 5. Also notice that I play with an inverted mouse. If you play with a non-inverted mouse, just keep this in mind as you observe the way I throw my shots. You may find it easier to throw your shots down instead of up as I do. I don't spend any time on estimating range and time to target to find the correct reticle point to use. This is a cognitive process that we just don't have time for. Instead, I use different reticle sweet spots for short, mid-range, and long-range targets. These serve as very accurate base aiming points and will result in a hit on the majority of targets you encounter. For stationary precision shooting, I line up the appropriate sweet spot first and then make very small vertical adjustments as needed. For moving shots, I pretty much rely upon the base points as there is no time for precise adjustments. This is my favorite practice target, and the means by which we will train to hit moving aircraft. As gun elevation increases, bullet drop takes longer to kick in. For most air targets, this difference is very slight, but it is a good idea to practice your reticle aiming points using this target to get a feel for the differences. Whether we call it drag shooting, snap shooting, or even potluck shooting, we are still talking about the same thing. It is the trained use of non-cognitive motor skills which we have a tendency to avoid when a gun sight is available. In other words, the more you think about how you will aim, the more likely it is that you will miss. I will refer to my technique as throw shooting, because in many ways it is very much like throwing a baseball with your mouse instead of your arm. In throw shooting, the reticle is positioned closer to a lead point while the target is being tracked if there is time. When timing is optimal, the reticle quickly accelerates towards the lead point with a sharp decrease in speed just as or after the round is fired. Throw shooting a stationary reticle is possible, but it is more difficult. It is best to begin the throw while the reticle is already moving. This is because the turret has a sluggish feel to it and does not respond to rapid mouse movements as quickly. Let's start by repositioning the reticle directly below our target. With your focus on the block and the reticle pre-aligned laterally, quickly move the reticle up and fire in one continuous motion. Do not pause to fine-tune your shot. Begin with small vertical throws until you get comfortable, and work your way out to longer ones. If you have trouble, begin the throw more slowly. Now let's try some lateral throws. This time, pre-align your reticle vertically and throw your shots left and right to the target. Gradually increase the throw distance until you can consistently get the round close to the target. Don't worry too much about consistent hits. If you are getting it close, then you're ready to move on. Many situations will call for a diagonal throw, combining both lateral and vertical movement. You may find these easier because the mouse moves in a more natural direction. Practice all of your stationary throw shots first until you get comfortable with them. You will find later that throw shooting from a stationary position is more difficult, but it does give you the most training benefit. Shooting on the move is easier. Here's why. As you move, so does the reticle, but it moves against your background very slowly compared to mouse movements. Timing your shot on the move instead of aiming it therefore gives you quicker, more precise control. However, shooting on the move does require that you apply reverse lead. As the speed of your tank or the target distance increases, more reverse lead is needed. Begin practicing this with easy targets such as a nearby tree or stop sign. Continue working on smaller and farther targets until you can consistently hit on the move at ranges in excess of 200 meters.